Ever since we got married, my old sweetheart just can't stand me out of her sight.
The most wholesome family in the history of American television. A grandfather who sat on the porch and made everything feel like it was going to be okay. A father who never quit. A mother who never broke. 7 children who said goodnight through the walls of a farmhouse every Thursday night and made 40 million people feel like they were saying goodnight too. That's what America saw. Here is what America didn't see. The man playing Grandpa had been stripped of his career by the United States government, had loved another man, and was a card-carrying member of the Communist Party. The man playing Pa Walton, TV Guide's 3rd greatest television father of all time, battled alcohol addiction after losing his 9-year-old daughter to leukemia. And the woman playing Olivia Walton was drinking heavily the day she got the role, pulled back together only by the man sitting across the dinner table from her. The network that aired this show placed it in the worst time slot on purpose. They expected it to fail. This is not the story of the Waltons you think you know, but to understand how far this goes, you first need to go back. Back to a Thursday night in September 1972. Back to when America fell in love. Close your eyes and try to hear it. That theme, that gentle melody rising over a mountain at dusk, over a farmhouse porch, over a family gathering for supper in the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia. And then the voiceover, that warm, unhurried voice of a man remembering the life he grew up in. If you watched the Waltons as a kid, that sound didn't just come from your television. It came from somewhere deeper. It felt like someone had found the exact frequency of safety and built a show around it. The Waltons premiered on September the 14th, 1972, Thursday nights, 8 o'clock, and almost nobody expected it to survive the year. CBS placed it directly opposite The Flip Wilson Show on NBC and The Mod Squad on ABC, 2 established hit programs. Cammy Cotler, who played little Elizabeth Walton, said years later that the rumor on set was that CBS chose that slot because they didn't expect the show to live. It was, some believed, a gesture toward Congress, which had been criticizing the quality of American television. Put a wholesome show on the air, watch it quietly disappear. But the producers refused to let it die. They launched a grassroots campaign, running ads, doing interviews, appearing in small towns that networks typically ignored. As Judy Norton, who played Mary Ellen, described it, they were just really kind of pleading with people to watch the show and embrace it. And those people listened. Season 1, 19th nationally, not safe. Season 2, 2nd in the entire country. Think about that. 19th to 2nd, one of the fastest audience turnarounds in television history. At its peak, 40 million Americans watched the Waltons every single week. Think about that number, 40 million. Goodnight John Boy became, according to the BBC, one of the most commonly spoken catchphrases of the entire decade. 9 seasons, 221 episodes, 13 Emmy Awards, and all of it, every last frame, began with a man walking through snow. His name was Earl Hamner Sr., father of 8, working a machinist job 30 miles from home during the Great Depression, boarding near his workplace all week. On weekends, he came home. He'd walk the final 6 miles through rural Virginia to sit at the same table as his family. On a snowy Christmas Eve in 1933, his young son Earl Jr. watched from the farmhouse window as his father came walking through the dark toward the light. That boy never forgot what he saw. 39 years later, that memory became the Waltons. Earl Hamner Jr. narrated every single episode himself, in the voice of the older John Boy, telling his own story to a nation that made it one of the most beloved programs ever broadcast. 40 million people, every Thursday night, and not one of them knew what was really happening behind the mountain. Let's talk about the people, because this is where the show you remember and the lives these people were actually living stop matching up. And once you see the gap, you can't unsee it. Richard Thomas as John Boy Walton. The earnest, notebook-clutching eldest son. The boy who wanted to write, who wanted to understand the world. The narrator, the conscience, the one America watched grow up. Richard Thomas was born in Manhattan in 1951. His parents were professional ballet dancers who founded the New York School of Ballet. He made his Broadway debut at the age of 7, already a trained, sophisticated performer before he ever walked onto Walton's Mountain. What almost no one knows, throughout his entire career, every season of the Waltons, every stage performance that followed, Richard Thomas has had significant hearing loss. A bone disorder called otosclerosis left him with approximately 50% hearing loss. He uses hearing aids. The man who embodied thoughtful listening, who delivered some of the most articulate lines in 1970s television, navigating partial deafness the whole time. He left the show deliberately in 1977 when his 5-year contract expired. He spent decades fighting typecasting, rebuilding on stage. In 2022, at 70 years old, he won the Tony Award for Best Actor for To Kill a Mockingbird on Broadway. 50 years. He waited 50 years, and he got there. If that surprised you, what I'm about to tell you about Pa Walton is going to stay with you.
I got a right to think anything I want.
Ralph Waite as John Walton Sr., TV Guide's third greatest television father of all time. Steady, principled, the thing the family leaned on every week. Here is the life that Bedrock was actually built on. Before Ralph Waite ever set foot on a Hollywood stage, United States Marine, social worker, 3 years at the Yale School of Divinity, ordained Presbyterian minister, religious editor at Harper & Row, bartender. He did not start acting until he was 30 years old. In 1964, his 9-year-old daughter Sharon died of leukemia. His alcohol problem deepened in the years after her death. He was fighting that battle throughout his time on the Waltons, and he was not fighting it alone, because the woman sitting across the dinner table from him every single week, the woman playing his devoted, unshakable wife, was fighting the exact same battle.
We're all excited, Pa. Ma's been going a lot longer than anybody figured.
Michael learned as Olivia Walton, 4 Emmy Awards, the all-time record for lead actress wins in a drama series, tied with only one other person in the history of the medium. The woman who made Olivia Walton feel like the mother America wished it had, and she almost didn't survive the first season. Michael Learned was 17 when she married her first husband. She was going through that divorce, drinking too much, full of fear, when she arrived in Los Angeles and was cast in The Waltons. In a 2022 interview, she confirmed what had never been publicly stated. Her exact words, "More than once, Ralph and I would go out for lunch and we would drink." Ralph Waite eventually helped her get sober. The two people playing the moral center of an American family were quietly holding each other together off-screen in ways the audience never saw. And Olivia Walton, despite all of it, is the one who surprised me most with where she is right now. But we'll get there. Then there was Grandma, the woman CBS tried to erase.
Here, Ellen, you will go to your room and you will learn 10 verses of the Bible before supper.
Ellen Corby, Grandma Esther Walton, more than 250 film and television roles before the Waltons cast her. Oscar nominated in 1948, 3 Emmy Awards for the show, one of the most experienced professionals on that entire set. In November 1976, she didn't show up to work. Ellen Corby was never late. Will Geer drove with producers to her home and found her stricken by a severe stroke. She was 67 years old. CBS's response, confirmed at a cast reunion by production assistant John Dayton, was to consider not bringing her back. His words, "It was CBS that vacillated." The excuse was that it would take too long. They thought she would not be up to the job. The cast fought back. Corby fought back. She went through more than a year of intensive speech therapy. And on March the 30th, 1978, in the season 6 finale titled Grandma Comes Home, Ellen Corby returned to the set. What the writers did next had never been done before on American television. They wrote her real stroke and her real aphasia directly into Grandma Walton's storyline. Corby was given one-word dialogue, "No, home." And she delivered a performance so emotionally devastating that she received another Emmy nomination. John Dayton put it simply, boy, were they wrong. Were they ever wrong? Her last role, ever, was Grandma Walton. In A Walton Easter, 1997, she died 2 years later. If you remember watching that episode when Grandma came home, drop a heart in the comments, because that performance deserved everything it got. Now, the one I've been building toward. Of everyone on this mountain, the man whose hidden life would have most genuinely shocked the 40 million people watching him every Thursday night is the one who sat on the porch and made everything feel like it was going to be okay.
It won't do the young'un any harm to find out she's not the only pebble on the beach.
Will Geer as Grandpa Zebulon Walton. Born in 1902 in Frankfort, Indiana, by the time he walked onto the set of The Waltons at the age of 70, he had lived 3 or 4 lifetimes. In the 1930s, active member of the Communist Party, he organized labor rallies. He befriended Woody Guthrie. In 1951, called before the House Un-American Activities Committee, he refused to name names. He was blacklisted. His Hollywood career effectively was over. His response was to build something. In Topanga Canyon near Los Angeles, he created the Will Geer Theatricum Botanicum, an outdoor theater and refuge for blacklisted artists. That theater still operates today, in 2026, more than 70 years after he built it. And then there is the other man, the one history remembers for something entirely different. In 1932, at a New York theater, Will Geer met a man who later described falling, in his own words, madly in love with him. That man's name was Harry Hay. He went on to found the Mattachine Society in 1950, America's first large-scale gay rights organization. The foundation of the modern LGBTQ rights movement was built, in part, by a man who had loved the person who would become Grandpa Walton. Will Geer married a woman, raised 3 children, never publicly addressed any of this. He survived the blacklist. He waited, and at 70 years old, walked onto a CBS set and became the most beloved grandfather in American television history. He did not live to see the episode in which his character died. Will Geer passed away on April the 22nd, 1978. Respiratory failure, 76 years old. The season 6 finale, Grandma Comes Home, which aired just 23 days before his death, was his final performance. The producers did not recast him. They wrote Grandpa Zeb's death into the season 7 premiere. The Walton family grieved on screen. The cast was grieving a real man. The tears you see in that episode are real. Did you have any idea about Will Geer? Drop a no way in the comments if any part of that was news to you.
I guess that's some kind of an answer.
The show that survived all of these private battles, all of these hidden lives, ended in 1981. Some of these people rebuilt something remarkable. Some vanished entirely, and 2 of them we lost just in the last 12 months. After Will Geer died, something in the show shifted, not just emotionally, structurally. Richard Thomas had already left at the end of season 5 in 1977, deliberately, when his contract expired. The show's 2 most essential presences were gone within a year of each other. The ratings tell it plainly. Season 2, second in the country. Season 7, 37th. By 1981, CBS canceled The Waltons. The farmhouse went dark. The cast scattered. Judy Norton, Mary Ellen, posed for Playboy in August 1985. Not a scandal, a deliberate act. A signal to an industry that had frozen her in the image of a teenage mountain girl, that she was an adult woman who got to decide who she was. She went to Canada with her second husband and ran dinner theaters for 8 years. John Walmsley, Jason, the musical one, moved to England. He makes music, he produces, he composes, he scores. He is almost invisible now. One of the most complete disappearing acts in this entire story. What does it actually do to a person? To spend their childhood as part of the most famous family in America, and then to have that disappear completely? Some of them answered that question in ways nobody predicted.
And I'll make you 1 gallon for a $2 bill.
Eric Scott drove packages. David Harper sold art. One of them built a school. One of them nearly died. And one of them, at 87 years old, is still the most remarkable person in this entire story. Eric Scott played Ben Walton. After 1981, he left Hollywood and never looked back. By 2011, he was running Chase Messengers, a parcel delivery service in Encino, California. He had previously worked there as a driver. He made his choice. He kept it. There's something quietly dignified about that.
You ain't got no right to say them things.
David Harper played Jim Bob. After the show, he reportedly drove packages for that same company. 2 Walton brothers, 1 delivery van, somewhere in Los Angeles. By 2019, Harper was working as an art dealer. He keeps an almost entirely private life. And then there's the Walton daughter who refused to disappear, just not in the way anyone expected. Judy Norton played Mary Ellen for 9 seasons and 6 reunion films. Today, she hosts a YouTube channel, Behind the Scenes with the Waltons, rewatching episodes, sharing memories, answering fan questions. When the 2021 anniversary film aired with an entirely new cast, Norton watched and noted with characteristic humor, "I wonder who will be playing me. Still sharp, still standing."
Job, you come near me and I'll bash your head in with a rock.
Tammy Cotler was 7 years old when she first played little Elizabeth Walton. She looked at Hollywood after the show ended and chose something else entirely. She founded the Environmental Charter Middle School in Gardena, California, a public school built around environmental literacy. She became its founding principal. The littlest Walton grew up and built something that will outlast all of us.
I wish I was deaf.
Richard Thomas, John Boy, the boy who always believed words mattered, won the Tony Award for Best Actor in 2022, 70 years old. To Kill a Mockingbird, 50 years of fighting for that moment. He got there. And then there is the woman I promised you earlier, the one who surprised me most. Mary Beth McDonough played Erin Walton, the one they always called the beautiful one. Being told you are beautiful when you are a child actress trying to be taken seriously is not a compliment. It is a ceiling. She carried that damage into adulthood. After the show, she got breast implants in her mid-20s, trying to compete in the Hollywood of the 1980s. Over the next 10 years, her health collapsed. Muscle pain, hair loss, chronic fatigue, joint pain so severe she could not lift her own daughter. Doctor after doctor told her she was simply depressed. It took 10 years to receive a correct diagnosis. Lupus, fibromyalgia, Sjogren's syndrome. She believes the implants triggered her immune system. After removal, her lupus went into remission. She She founded Lupus LA. She testified before Congress on women's health. She published a memoir. She remarried happily. The girl they called beautiful spent a decade nearly dying from the pressure of that word and came out the other side an activist, an author, and an advocate. That is an extraordinary thing. Michael Leonard is 87 years old. Let that land. She appeared in a film this year, 2026, and described it as one of the happiest shoots of her life. Her fourth husband passed away in 2025. She keeps going. She keeps working. She keeps finding, in her own words, the light. The woman who played Olivia Walton, who almost didn't survive the first season, who held herself together with the quiet help of the man playing her husband, is still here, still showing up, at 87. There is no tidy way to say this next part. We have lost two members of this cast in the past year alone. Lynn Hamilton, who played Verdi Grant Foster throughout the series, passed away in June 2025. She was 95. Mary Claire Costello, who played Rosemary Hunter Fordwick from 1972 to 1977, died in Brooklyn on April the 17th, 2026. She was 90 years old. The cast continues to thin, quietly, as the years pass. Which cast member's story surprised you the most? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. And all of it, every story I've just told you, traces back to one real moment, one man, one snowy road, one Christmas Eve in 1933. Here's the thing about the Waltons that nobody ever fully says out loud. This entire franchise, 221 episodes, 13 Emmy Awards, 6 reunion films, global syndication continuing to this day, 54 years of cultural conversation, came from one father's act of love on a cold night during the worst economic crisis in American history. Earl Hamner Sr. worked 30 miles from home. He boarded near his workplace during the week because he had 8 children to feed. On weekends, he came home. He walked the final 6 miles through rural Virginia, through whatever weather was waiting, to sit at the same table as his family. Everything that followed, the book, the series, the careers of a dozen people, the memories of 40 million viewers, every goodnight John boy ever spoken in an American living room, all of it grew from one man's decision to walk through the dark to get home. Earl Hamner Jr. died on March the 24th, 2016, 92 years old, bladder cancer, Studio City, California. He had narrated every single episode in the voice of the older John boy, his own voice, telling his own story, all the way to the end. Good night, Earl. If you watched The Waltons growing up, you know how every episode ended. The farmhouse goes dark. The voices call out through the walls. Good night, John boy. Good night, Mary Ellen. Good night, Jason. Good night, Aaron. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Elizabeth. Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy. Good night, Grandpa. Good night, Grandma. For 9 seasons, that ritual was the last thing tens of millions of Americans heard before they turned off their televisions. The most famous goodnight in the history of television. Now you know what was behind those voices. A grandfather blacklisted by his own government who had loved a man who changed history. A father who lost a daughter and found the bottom of a bottle before he found his way back. A mother barely holding on when the cameras first rolled, held up quietly by the man sitting across the table from her. A school principal, an art dealer, a package delivery man, a health advocate who testified before Congress, a Tony Award winner at 70, and a woman who is 87 years old and still finding the light. The show still streams. The real mountain, in Schuyler, Virginia, where Earl Hamner grew up, is still there. People visit it. They stand on that land and feel it. Families hold. People show up. You walk through the dark to get home. Loving this show was never naive. It was recognizing something true. Before I let you go, I need to ask you something. Which part of this story hit you the hardest? Was it Will Geer? Ralph Waite's daughter? The moment CBS tried to write out Ellen Corby and the cast stood up and said no? Drop it in the comments right now. I read every single one, and I'm going to pin the most thoughtful answer I find. If this changed the way you see a show you grew up with, if Grandpa or Pa or Grandma means something different to you now than it did 20 minutes ago, then you understand exactly what this channel is for. Hit subscribe, because every week we do this for another show you thought you knew. Next up, another show from the same decade, another Thursday night in the 1970s, another cast America thought it knew completely, and a secret behind one cast member that makes the Will Geer story look like a footnote. Subscribe and you'll see it the moment it goes live. Until then, good night, John boy.